Good morning. You're listening to the One Source Network, the Good Morning Hour, the Good Morning Show, whatever you want to call it. We have with us today Scott Joy, and it's going to be a very, very interesting but very informative broadcast. Experiences in our journey, and I'm sure Scott has some things he would like to share to give us tools so we can take a look at it. Because not only is life getting more challenging at times, we're also getting very, very busy. And that's not always a thing that allows us to really find out who we truly are. So let's welcome Scott Joy. Welcome, Scott.
Good morning, Greg. That's
Good.
well said.
Yep. There's one thing I want to start off with, and I like your honesty. And maybe some hosts wouldn't bring it up, but it's very important that we do, because sometimes we do get at certain emotional states. When I asked you how you're doing, you said you're a bit tired because God was waking you up at 3 a.m. in the morning for whatever reason. Hey, Scott, how important to you is it to be honest when a question is asked towards you?
It's sometimes my demise, Greg, because it's how my true self rolls like that. My true self rolls like that. So someone will say, because I'm not a fan of small talk, because of I'm a person I enjoy a lot of depth in conversations. So to me, it's being honest is it's a rare commodity today. It can be rare. And I'm not saying people are dishonest. I'm just saying, when you go to the store, how are you? Good. It's kind of conditioned responses. Good. But yet, as a person who can sense what's going on, I'm like, they're not feeling well, or there's sadness there, or they're just not happy, So, yeah, that's what happened. Before we rolled today, Greg said, how are you? And I said, I'm really tired. I almost fell asleep an hour ago. I've been at the office since sunrise. But you know what? It's all good. So I'll be honest about another thing. I'm really going through a lot of healing, and I made a choice. I decided something I want to share with you guys. God's been waking me up early. I've never been an early riser, and so anyways, I wake up at 2:30, and I started getting angry. I'm like, what the heck? I want to. I went to bed at 9 or something, but I want to get more sleep. And I actually watched this a guy doing videos, and he said when he went through an ascension or through a as we grow, spiritual growth, God will wake you up. And sometimes the God I know doesn't say every time I want you to do this every time. He's not a taskmaster. So this guy passed along. He shared a story, which is what we're talking about today. He shared an experience, Greg. And he said that he was going through some healing, and he kept waking up early, and he got, as he said, literally pissed off at first, because he's like, this guy has kids. He's like, I got kids. I got things to do in the morning. I need sleep. It's like the fourth night. And on the fifth night, he woke up and he said, you know what? I'm going to do this differently. He said, I'm going to get up and work on my new business. I'm going to make coffee at 3 a.m. and just say, this is the start of my day. It's quiet. I can make coffee. The family's sleeping. So that's what I've been doing. I get up. I start doing some journaling. I spend some time with me. I spend some time with God. And then I start doing something, where creativity is really good at that time in the morning. So that's being honest, Greg. And going with the flow. That's another part of that, because it flows. There's an opportunity created for us, and a lot of times we resist it. How long you got to talk about that?
The other day I heard my name, and it was I would say it was about 3:08 in the morning, and I went to bed probably that night about 12. But why, for a moment, maybe for about 2 minutes, I woke up and I was a little tired. But then the excitement came, because in my mind, I said, well, if I heard my name, God has something to share with me. So that's how I set my mind. I went into prayer, and sure enough, I received some revelation. So for me to hear my name or hear a doorbell ring or a knock, that was God calling me. So what better place to be in, knowing that you're going to hear from our Creator? That's how I think, even though I'm tired, because I thought about it. If I ignored that awakening and I went back to sleep, the next day it would really bother me, because that's how I look at it, because there was an opportunity for me to share with God in that moment. So I think why train my mind that way. And that's what's going to be good about this broadcast, Scott. You learn certain things. You use the word that we're conditioned in so many ways. But it seems like in your life, you learn to break certain patterns, so many patterns. So that's why I'm glad that you're on today, so you can share some of those new you call it. So you can share some of those life experiences with us.
Thank you, Greg. When you said you heard a knock, you sometimes hear a knock. That's happened to me. I'm sleeping and I hear a knock that I'm momentarily, I'm like, there's someone knocking on my bedroom door. There isn't.
There isn't.
And the evidence of that is I get up and there's no one there. But you'll know it's that real. Doorbells, phones, other things, and I've had it happen too. And I do know that time of the morning is a high spiritual time too. And I just got a understanding when you said that beyond this, which is to those listening. There's many times, probably even this week, you're going to find that knock is happening with something you're doing is to wake up. Because a lot of us are going through life half asleep. Look, they tell us, go after this, the American dream. Dreams only happen while you're asleep, okay? You want to go after your dream, but first you have to know what that is. Then you'll know. But sometimes I believe God will knock, or situations will knock, and we'll say, no, I'm, like you said, oh, you get up. But some people, me too, in the past, I'd really hear the knock and go, God, I need my sleep. Let's parallel that. You're at a job and you're really stressed out and you didn't get a raise or whatever. It's not working out well. That's the knock. Don't go back to sleep. Listen to that. Wake up. Listen to that. God's talking to you saying there's better for you. Let's progress. But fear stops us. All the time I deal with that. We all do. I want to say hi to good morning to Grace and Rebecca, by the way. I saw the comments popping up. So one of the things that that I want to talk about is kind of an unexpected break that my wife Cynthia and I took this recently. Can I tell a little bit about that, Greg?
Please. It's your platform.
So my wife decided, she said, we really need vacation. And that was a knock, actually, now that I think about it. Me in the past, I'll just share this about me. I was very stubborn. Stubborn can be beneficial, but it was stubborn to my detriment. I went through life kind of with the brakes on, resisting change. And so in the past, I might have kind of fought her on it in a way and said, well, we don't need vacation. It wasn't even about the money or anything. It was just that I was in a groove. I'm working and I'm not anti-vacation. It's just something more to deal with, right? So we started looking for a place in New Hampshire in our Lakes region, and we found a house. The rent for a week, it was really expensive, but we have the money, so it was, we wouldn't have gone in debt. It's okay. But something inside said, after a day or two, I'm like, this just isn't right. You know what I mean, Greg? I don't even know why I said, do you know what I mean? I know Greg knows what I mean. He runs his life like this too, right? I think.
Well, hey, Scott, I want to say something. If I don't run my life like this, life will run me.
We could end the broadcast right there. That's a mic drop. That was the best sermon you'll hear if you're a Christian. The best sermon, you just heard it.
Yeah.
So I'm learning. So on Greg's point, I too trust that voice, but sometimes the closest people to us could be anybody, friends, it could be an influencer on YouTube, I don't know, have another idea and you kind of buy into that. But are you living your own life? So we see this house and it started becoming, we call it the yellow lights were coming on, and then I felt like a red light, don't do this. So we agreed we'd just wait. And we took a ride within a few days of there up to that town. We were in that town where we were going to rent the lake. And there was a sign on a place we used to rent. It said no vacancy. Hello, Cynthia. That's Cynthia, my wife there. Hello, everybody.
Hey, hello, Cynthia.
So keeping the story short, it says no vacancy. And I was walking by because we had to park down over here and like walk to the beach. We were just going to the beach for a day. Well, we thought about, we'd like to go away, more or whatever. Anyway, so I'm walking by and I'm looking over at the place. There's 5 cabins and we used to rent there. And I go, God, it's too bad. It's too bad she's not still open, but she's not. Well, we know the owner. And all of a sudden, Greg, I felt I'm walking back to the beach because I was actually going to get some stuff, walking back to the beach to sit with Cynthia. And I felt this strong urge to stop in the middle of the road. And I did. And I felt God say, go talk to the owner. We know this woman. Not rent a place, just go in and say hi. This is the next thing that happened. That's the knock. The next thing that happened is I went, I don't feel like talking to anybody today. I just want to sit at the lake. This is being honest. And I decided at the moment, I said, you know what? I decided. I said, I'm just going to follow this. I'll go say hi. And I walk in and she's home and she welcomes me in and we're talking, just catching up. She's an awesome lady. And on the way out, I with no agenda, I just said, so you're closed. You're not renting. And she looked at me and she goes, I'm renting a month at a time, though. I don't want, she's getting older. She doesn't want to deal with everything. The turnover every weekend, the weekend people, but it's less turnover if you're there for a month, less work. And I just in faith, I said, do you have anything open? She goes, yeah. I go, I'll do a month. I hadn't asked the price. I didn't know the dates. I just knew this felt right. That's what this story is about. And it still quite didn't make sense, does it, anyone listening? Because I didn't know the price. I mean, it's the middle of July on a beautiful, highly desired lake with waiting lists, no vacancies, there's nothing, okay? In an inflationary period, chances are like 0. You're going to get this at almost any price. She told me the price per week. And then she said, she said, I'm going to give you a discount. And I went back and I told Cynthia, and Cynthia was so excited. It would be like telling your wife you just won megabucks, for real. Like, because she knew, Cynthia knew that we wanted to get away. So it started with a knowing for Cynthia, and then we started taking action on it. And then we got a red light. And then by chance, no, but it seems like it's by chance, where we're up there and I just stopped and walked in. And on a long shot, it wasn't a long shot. God had this all planned. My point about this, so we were up there for 6 weeks. We added a few more weeks on. So here we are, 6 weeks on vacation. I had people say all kinds of things to me. It just showed me how crazy, in a way, our society is. It's looked at as a weakness if you take time off. Or it's like, well, you're lazy. I heard it all. And I thought to myself, I don't feel that at all. I feel this is great. And after the 2nd or 3rd week, we decided we're going to do something similar next year, God willing. What I learned, though, up there, what I learned with that time away is, actually, I didn't learn it. It was just brought back to me. Here's the message for everybody. We're doing too much. We're too busy, too many phones, too many pings and pongs. There is too much, and things are a little too fast. And those of us that are spiritual, those of us that follow God, He is talking, and the still small voice is getting more and more covered up with instant messaging and instant everything, and no margins in time. And this was all shown to me, but it was shown to me by taking it all and saying select all, delete, and there I was. We're away now. We're only away an hour north of here. I did work a couple days. I had some projects to do, so I drove down. Cynthia stayed up there. It permanently changed my whole body. I feel different. It's been 2 weeks, and I'm not going back to where I was. Now I didn't. Greg knows too. I mean, I've never been crazy busy, because that's crazy. People say it all the time. It's like people tell me I'm crazy busy. I'm like, well, stop being crazy. Calm down. Listen to yourself. What this all comes down to is all this story was to say that I actually got a better chance. I had to kind of clear stuff up, but I got a better chance to hear my own voice, my true self, not my false self that is trying to get everybody's approval, or come under a pastor, or come under a guru, or do what everyone says. The real me that says, I don't need most of that. I already know what to do. But we crowd ourselves with so much. We pin ourselves in, and then that's why we have anxiety. That's why we have stress. So I was out biking around a lot on the nice dirt roads where there's no cars, and there's so many signs, Greg, all around the lake, everywhere you go. Now, as they say, you could ask Cynthia. We counted them one day, or I did. Even on dirt roads, slow down. Stop raising the dust. There's a sign that says, don't raise the dust 10 miles an hour. It's a dirt road. The dust raises up, covers houses. I get it. But on the main road, people are doing 60 in a 30 zone. I'm like, and after slowing down a lot, and really, you can see the contrast. I'm like, it's not like I haven't done that either, guys. I'm just saying, I'm so aware. What are we trying to get done? Where are we trying to get to? When you do that, you leave your presence. You're trying to get to Friday. You're trying to I can't wait till this happens. Yeah. Well, what about living now? Do you ever hear this? The presence of God. It doesn't say the hurry of God. So this is all stuff that came up, and it did some healing in me. So this isn't boasting, because healing means I was messed up. I was messed up from a lot of things, like a lot of us are, but I'm a little better now. So you can take some time off. You can take a break. If it's a day, if it's an hour, it's a requirement. It's really a requirement if you want to live in your true self. So I've mentioned that a lot, true self. What is that? When we're born, that's our true self. Right when you're born, that's you. That's who you're, everything you're ever going to be, in a way, right? Physically, no, but I mean, there you are. But then you get put in school and you're taught, sit down. You can wait for the bell. I'm your boss. You can't do that. If you do this, that happens. And then your parents reinforce that, because that was reinforced in them. And then you go to church and nope, I'm the pastor, and I tell you this, and I talk to you, and it goes on. And then you go to work and you go to college. You start becoming. You have to more. You either comply to that, or you're looked at as a rebel. Now, I, as a kid, didn't know what to do with that, and I was constantly getting in trouble. And it wasn't from like setting off M80s in the hallway. It was because I didn't know any better. I'd get up and leave the class and start walking around the school. I'm like, I've heard enough. I didn't know. It was innocent. But then they molded me, So that's the false self. And we go down this trajectory for years of we're trained to outsource everything to the doctor and the pastor and the boss. And what does that leave? That creates somebody that's in conflict with who you really are, which creates anxiety. So taking some time is a good way to heal, is to really hear, is to do an audit of your life. Thank you, Grace. Do an audit of your life by yourself, and just take some time. If that's prayer, if that's going for a walk, if it's doing it every day for a month, and just listen. You're trying to talk to yourself. God's trying to talk to you. And what's happening is, one other thing I want to say about this, and then back to you, Greg. I don't understand this, but we're in a different time now. The things that used to work, you can see this with the systems. The systems are cracking and falling apart. Systems like financial system, control system, political system, church system, almost everything. We're in an internet age, everything. God doesn't change, but the methods that we use to do things are changing. So in order to stay in tune with that, we really need some time to listen to ourselves. And one example of that is, ask yourself this question. Do you ever say this, I knew that, I knew it, or I knew that would happen, right? And it's usually after you do something I would call, I don't know, dumb. Like you try to carry too much stuff and things fall on the ground and break. You go, I knew I should have made 2 trips. Think about that. This is how simple this is. You already knew, but you overrode yourself because you're in a hurry. You're trying to do stuff too fast, or you're maybe you're a little lazy, or we've all done this stuff. If you listen, that's your true self. That's your true self. And guess what's connected to your true self right at birth? God. And I believe that we can, in Christianity, they're like, die to yourself. I say, yeah, die to your false self and be born again. Like when you were born for the first time, you were clear and reset. That's what we need. And that's what I was seeing on vacation. Slow down everywhere. They're putting up signs because everything's speeding up, but it's carelessness. It's lack of presence. So this all sounds negative. It's not negative. I think it's just, it's how I see reality right now. But the answer is so simple. Just go listen to yourself and it will all start correcting from the inside out. You'll find things will slow down. You'll have more time. This also, by the way, when you're in a hurry, it blocks abundance because you can't hear opportunities and you can't say yes because you have no time. If you want abundance, there is abundance. We're the ones who block it. So that's my, but that was a bit of a rant. I felt kind of inspired there for a little bit on some of that, Greg. Over to you.
And I thank you for sharing, Scott. My reality, what I realized, my experiences played a vital role in my growth in knowing who God is. One thing I've learned that sometimes in this world I had to experience the opposite to know the truth. You mentioned the new you. I believe when I wasn't really aware of my God himself, I wasn't aware of the purpose that he had for my life. So I lived my life in the flesh. I lived my life pleasing things that served only my flesh, my desires. You mentioned something earlier, and I was really paying attention to what you were sharing. You said it's important for us to live our dreams. I remember living my dreams, Scott. I wanted all this stuff and doing everything. But what I realized I had to ask myself, is my dream different than the purpose that God has for me? Sometimes my dream is something that I want. This is what I learned in my own life. But when I started to surrender to the Spirit, to my spiritual side, noticing I do have 2 aspects of my personality. I have one that really nurtures the ego, and then I have one that nurtures my spirit. But I believe, like you said, Scott, we all have a divine purpose that God put in us. In my reality, I have to learn how to discover that purpose, his purpose. So I began to ask different type of questions. You brought up questions, and it is truth. First question I had to bring up, anything I do in life, does it bring me further away from the truth, or does it bring me closer to God? You said keep it simple. You're right. So I believe it's the type of questions we ask ourselves. And in those questions, all of a sudden we gain revelation. So again, you're saying the same thing, and I'm only sharing my version of it, my experience. But what happens in this world, people want to wrong each other. Well, I'm right for saying it my way. Oh, no, it's it. I don't get involved in that stuff. You know why, Scott? Because the whole world is separated. And in that separation, fear happens. And all of a sudden, like you said, unless we take time to relax, enjoy the earth, the creation like you did and Cynthia did, we sort of lose our center, our connection with God himself. So I'm glad you brought certain points up, because in my reality, I took that information the way that I perceived it, then I could share my experience of what the new you looks like.
I think we have. I'm questioning if we only have one purpose, or if it's even that simple. I don't even know if I can put a label on it. I mean, if you try to label God, what's he say? I am that I am. Basically, it's saying, come on, go away, kid. You bother me. Don't try to figure this out. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
We try to,
Yes.
we try to label everything. You talk about being close to God. When we're born, we're close to God, and we can stay close to God. This sounds controversial, but when I've been doing reflecting, when I was furthest from God, it's when I was serving in the church. That's sad, but I was so busy that it became about nickels, numbers, and noses, and it was hardly about him at all. If I wanted to feel led, I grabbed a pencil. I was actually told that. You want to feel led, grab a pencil. Let's go. So the reason I mention that is there's totally a time for that, and it did me a lot of good. There's also a time to move on, and it's like you don't stay in college for 36 years, unless you're going to be a professor after your 4 years, then that's different. Let's get out there and just be nice to people, be open to people, be real to people. That's how. See, I don't know that I have I don't know if I tried to find my purpose, but I tried to find it in the way the world says. Well, I should be a musician. I was a DJ, a business owner. I could list off, I don't know, doesn't matter. A lot of things I've done or I was, but I'm still just me. And, like Wayne Dyer said, if you put all your identity in that, which we're taught to do, I'm a doctor, that's why. No, you went to a really expensive school, passed tests, and you were taught, you memorized things other people told you, and you regurgitated to me. Thank you for that, but you're not anything special beyond your knowledge that's in the books. And what we do is we identify this, and as Wayne Dyer said, we can get wrapped up in that, in our purpose. Like, so what if you're a lawyer and then you get disbarred? Then you're nothing. Then what are you? Our identity is in our true self, which is in God, and anything above and beyond that, that's nice. But as far as a purpose goes, I don't know. I don't know how to address that, because I don't think we have just one.
You know what's interesting? I never looked for my purpose, Scott. You know how my purpose started to unfold? Like you said, we have many purposes, but if we place our thoughts and identity that were our purpose, then all of a sudden we begin to diminish who God is. The more my character developed, it became more of who I really am, made in the image of Christ. All of a sudden, my purpose began to find me. I did not look for my purpose. I think when we develop who we are, like you said, and we go back to that innocence as a child, our purpose begins to find us. So many people are out there looking for a purpose, but as we develop who we are in Christ, his purpose finds us.
There's a book by Rick Warren, The Purpose-Driven Life, huge in Christianity. I went to classes on that, groups on that twice. I don't remember every detail of it, but I do remember that there was the general theme is just go do stuff for God, and that's the purpose. in America, that's not really working because the people aren't. Then what do you do? What do? You bring them to church, and then they get saved, but they're not saved from the same society everybody's in. I'm not even, you know what I mean? I mean, um, so yeah. Um, this is something that I think about, and then I just kind of let it go, and I say maybe our purpose is just to really enjoy life, and then that will attract people and circumstances where we can really get in, and like you and I did, Greg. Like, I enjoy my business and I enjoy the relationships I have in it, which is how I met you, through Bill. So that was connected by simply enjoying what I do. For years I did not enjoy what I did. So here's an experience I can share with you. If you hate your job, quit. Simple. Don't even worry about the rest, because it's going to, you're at dis-ease. And the beginning of dis-ease is you can't settle. You hate Monday. But dis-ease, when it constantly goes on, your body's talking to you, and it turns into then a named dis-ease. That's why a lot of people are sick, because they're not lining up. They're just working for a check because that's what they were told to do. Or like me, I was in that situation. I remember, and it was 30 years ago, 25 years ago ish, somewhere around there. I remember I was starting to have friends who really were making it in life. When I talk about making it in life, okay, sure, they had houses and money and all that. I'm not talking about that. They were enjoying their life. They were enjoying their life. I was in church, I was reading the scriptures, and it's helpful and it was powerful, but there was this disconnect, Greg. I was seeing it, but I couldn't see how to connect with it. I could connect with it, but I could never make it mine. And it wasn't because I was doing the wrong thing. It was because I wasn't listening to myself. I didn't like my job. My old marriage, my ex-marriage was falling apart. I was taking on debt, which my whole soul said, don't do debt for depreciating assets like cars, consumer goods. Don't do it. And I did it. So if your body's saying you don't want to work here, start listening to it, because what's going to happen is it's going to start snowballing, and you're afraid. You're afraid, oh my God, I need my check. But the reason you need your check is because you're not in abundance. And the reason you're in abundance is because you're not in alignment. And the reason it all comes down and starts with this: you need to listen to you. You know what you need. You know what your purpose is. You may not be able to name it, but your purpose is, if you're at about 7 or 8 different things where you're just not happy, and that includes places of worship too. Again, I was speaking about the church stuff, if I could, Greg. When I was at a couple of church environments, and it was going really well. For me, I've had many situations where I wanted to come into leadership, and I did, and inevitably the same pattern kept happening. I kept feeling kind of further and further from God, more connected to the leadership, and then things would go awry. I don't know what it was every time. To hear yourself, you have to get away. Yes, in order to hear yourself, you have to get away. So I'll finish up with this part is, and the pattern kept repeating. So part of hearing yourself is noticing patterns. And I started noticing a pattern. I'd get in a different church. And then I was told by people, again, this is going back to what I said earlier. I was listening to pastors, and they'd say, well, you're a church hopper, you can't leave. But I wasn't listening to me. That's like, get out of here. It's not working anymore. Don't figure out why. It's just time to go. That took some maturity. But I kept going through this pattern, and I got to the next place and get up into leadership. Why? Because it's part of my purpose, Greg. My purpose was coming up, but I wasn't listening to me. How's that? I was using my purpose in the wrong place. If you take your car and you drive along the beach and start heading into the water, you can do it with any kind of car you want, but it's going to eventually stop, blow the engine, and float away and sink, okay? Because it's not designed to operate in that environment. But it'll do great if you put it on a road. That's kind of the strange parallel I use when putting me into a controlled, organized system where everyone's telling me what to do, when inside I want to be creative and let the spirit roll, and it couldn't happen. So finally I caught on and said, I'm listening to myself. This isn't working. For a long time, I was mad at this one and that one, and I healed of that. That takes time. I mourned the death. But you know what? I'm closer to God now. I don't attend any fellowship. I don't see myself going back. Recently, I went to a small home church. Even that blew up, and it's blowing up quicker. It's not them. It could be me, but I'm not designed to roll down that kind of road. So it doesn't work. But now we're making friends and we're able to talk about God in a peaceful environment over coffee with no agenda. And they open up and we really get healing done, you see? So that may not be your call. You may be perfect in your church. That's fine. Check mark. Good for you. But what if it's your job? Like, getting back to this, you've got to listen to yourself. That's what New You is about. I'm coaching people, and I will not coach long term because I don't believe you need a coach. It might be very temporary. It's like a tow truck. You need it when you're in trouble. That's it. But you don't get a bill every month from that. And I don't do a long term thing. And because if you need a coach for a really, really long time, you find another coach. Because that's the way I see it. Because I'm going to come in, I'm going to use my discernment and hear you and say, I've been there. I won't tell you what to do, but I will listen and just ask questions that get you talking, to listen to yourself. That's how I train. That's the training, to listen to yourself.
Hey, Scott, I want to share something. I'm listening to you. Every experience I had and still have was a teaching for me. If God put in me to be a leader and I deny it, and I go into these structures, these institutions not leading, it's not the person's fault. It's me denying who I am. That's training. If God put in you to be a leader and you go into a situation where you're going to be led, whose choice was that?
Mine.
There you go. Hey, Scott, I'm only bringing out that coaching in me. I coach many thousands of people. But at the same time, I'm learning every experience we had to go in that structure to learn who we are. And once we notice, wow, I learned everything I can, God allows us to experience something else. I see it. And it's truly a gift. Those people weren't doing anything to me. They were sharing with me who I really thought I was.
Yes.
They were saying, oh, okay, you want to join our structure, our experience? We're gonna shake you up. So by questioning the experiences we have, we get to a point where we're saying, you know what? Is this really who I am? And what purpose does it serve me? When you're like that, you get the freedom to make different choices. And Cynthia brought up a good point. Let me bring it up. She said, and in order to hear yourself, you have to get away. I look at it, but I want to add on to what she says. In order to hear myself, I have to go within. Because once I go within and start to see all those things in me that I never dealt with before, all of a sudden I begin to expand my awareness of who I really am. If I'm fearful, going within myself allows me to really take that log out of my eye. But going away and then going within, I think they both serve a great purpose.
I agree, and that's good wisdom, Greg. Going within, because again, it goes back to what I've found is I actually think we have more answers. I don't think we need gurus, leaders, pastors, and authority figures to the extent that we're trained to use them.
That's right.
Now, there is a time. And as I said, in the church structures, at least the ones I was in, there was no way out. I was labeled. It all happened. I went through all that. But you know what that was for, Greg? To your point, I was kind of bullied on the way out in a way. But it made me really look at that and go, but who am I listening to? Whose report am I going to believe?
That's
Some
right.
people, they're not on my journey. They're not on my journey. So again, I will say, you could be in an organized church and it's total bliss. Be aware if it starts changing, pay attention, because everything has an expiration date, and maybe that doesn't for you, but for a lot of people, that's what I'm seeing, Greg. It's so not moving away from just church. There's when you go within, okay. Let's put it this way: when you go within, I'm sure know because you do it. If you don't go in within much, or you don't listen to yourself much, you won't really know your own voice or the voice of God or whatever it is speaking to you. Let me make it this way. When I first met Greg, we talked on the phone. We talked a few more times. I really didn't know Greg. Greg really didn't know me. It's like any friend. When you meet them, you don't really. It takes time. Things take time. But without looking at my caller ID, I could pick up the phone and I'd hear, "Hey, Scott," and I'd go, "Greg." I know his voice.
Oh, know his voice. Yeah, that's a good one.
I know his voice. But if I barely talk to him and I'm too busy to talk to him, or whatever the case is, do you see the parallels here, people? This is what going away really reinforced. I knew this before, but I got to experience it in a much more relaxed environment. I got much more time. I was able to spend more time listening to that. And I wasn't Zen floating around the lake in a lotus position, making a joke of it. It was happening, and it can happen during busy days too. I'm just saying that it's be aware. It's awareness. As my wife says, awareness is the beginning of freedom. And we all want freedom, yet we ask people to tell us what to do. Tell me what to do. Oh, I get the situation, Mr. Policeman, lawyer, pastor, leader. What do I do? You already know what to do. But we have to unschool ourselves. And like one of the things I've been doing, Greg, I call it unlearning. And I've been journaling, looking at my journal, going, all these things I've learned, is that to my benefit, or was that to some company's benefit? Or was that to some school's benefit, so that I wouldn't leave the classroom or I'd obey? But you're trained to a lot of our life in the society, it's functioning, but we're trained to submit. And if you haven't noticed, there's a lot of rebellion going on because humans are designed to rebel against authority, improper authority. And a lot of the systems, for reasons that I don't know, there's falling apart, and people are they're coming out going, wait, I don't have to work in an office anymore. The internet has brought us all this potential, and we're still finding out how to use that and like really make it work. One of the potentials is I'm sitting in an office in New Hampshire, Greg's in Rhode Island, and you're wherever you are watching this. That's beautiful. Let's go with that. But there's a lot of that. So you don't have to do things the same way you used to do them. And you can listen to yourself. And if you do that, you'll find everything improves, starting with your health, your mental and physical health.
Wow. Hey, Scott, you're once again, and please forgive me if I interrupted you, but you're bringing up some great points. And the thing that comes in my mind, what makes a good coach, Scott? Do you know what really makes a valuable coach? I should put it that way.
I would say experience.
I will share with you. And
I mean life experience. Go ahead.
Yeah, that does that. I'll check that off. I've trained professional athletes, Navy SEALs, before they went into their own training, so many different types of people in different professions. What I realized, though, is when you're a coach who really coaches from the heart, your responsibility is to help that client to find the leader in themselves. That's a good coach. When I say, okay,
Yes.
I can see your gift. Most people can't see their God-given gift, Scott. They can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're there just to help them recognize who they really are, that gives them so much wealth and value that all of a sudden they'll affect other people's lives. I remember, and I'm only going to say this, I have to be careful. When I was a strength coach at a university, one of the coaches said, now this was his words, that in our conference, the conference that the team played on, he said, you're being said to be the best strength and conditioning coach in our conference. And I thought about it. And I said, I don't want that title. You know why I don't want that title, Scott? Because then I'll start acting like the best strength and conditioning coach. And when I act that way, all of a sudden I lose my natural abilities.
There's a key word in that.
Yep. I don't want to be the best at anything. I want to do my best, but I always want to be teachable. What's your thoughts, Scott?
Words are powerful, aren't they, Greg?
Yes, they are.
And you said a key word. You don't want to act like. Well, think about what the word act means.
That's right.
Okay? What are some good actors that you know and that I know? Yeah, I agree with you. Help that client. See, that's really what it's all about. I couldn't have put words to that like you did, Greg, about helping the person find a leader in themselves. One of my Scott quotes on my website because I put it up there is, don't follow me, lead yourself. And I also said to people, they're like, oh, I want followers. And I'm like, well, be worth following. And then I'll also tell them, you don't want followers. You want to lead yourself. But the word act, Greg, when you're acting, you're taking on a part. I call that the false self. That's the title. So you're acting the title. And when you act, it's not necessarily your personality. You're taking on a persona of a title, the best strength trainer. And like you said, you and I are cut from the same mold in that respect about about titles. To me, titles are really great if you're in the library looking for a book. They have a great purpose there. Other than that, Greg, when I was younger, I used to meet the CEO of a company or a president of a company, and I would be intimidated. And now for comparison, because it's always good to look back and to look now, to kind of see where you've come from. It's good to compare. It's good to see your progress, right? And now I just had a phone call the other day. This guy's the CEO of a huge company. We may be doing some business together. I'm talking to him like I'm talking to you, because you know why? It's not disrespectful. It's not even about anything to do with that. I've learned he's just a dude. And if the board of directors says, you know what, he really aggravated me. This guy is on the street, the same street I live on, looking to do his next thing and pick up his next title. It's not who he is. It used to intimidate me because I didn't know who I was.
There you go. Hey, Scott, you just said something once again. I take a step back so I could sort of integrate my thoughts on what I want to say. And I want to make sure I'm clear. No man, and I could say it now, I couldn't say it in my past. No man except Christ on earth intimidates me. And I can tell you why. No man. I don't care if you're the president. I don't care if you're a pro. I don't care who you are. You know why? Because I'm going to bring value in your relationship as you bring value in mine. I know I am. But if you don't accept that value, I don't need to go further with you. I don't care who you are. I'm going to be the same way in front of the president and whoever as I am with you. If not, Scott, I lose my wealth.
That right there, people, is how you live authentically. And Greg, I can hear it in your voice, and I think you've said it. This has been a progression for you. Right? Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I meant by a coaching experience. So when you coach with Greg, which Greg and I have just being friends on the phone, I've received his coaching.
In both ways. I receive yours too.
Yeah. We call that win-win, don't we? Right?
There you go. And that's the Super Bowl.
And it's there's talents and gifts, but then there's life experience, and it all mixes together with what we're talking about here.
That's right.
Experiences. And that expression, experience, is the best teacher. Yeah. It really helped. I always say, I used to say mistakes. Now I say I got educated. I got some more education, about something. Or my way to stay. I don't necessarily buy into being positive or optimistic, because I have to. That takes energy for me to keep that up. Okay. I mean, I'm not negative as a whole. I'm just saying anything that I have to. Like, for example, if you go to a Tony Robbins event or any motivational speaker, I call that external motivation. You'll be pumped up. But we all have slow leaks. So in 2 days, you're flat again. But when it comes from the inside, from internal motivation, from internal inspiration in the spirit, then you're excited and you stay level and up. How many times, Greg, have we come up with ideas on the phone? They're inspired. And they're exciting because it's win, rather than the old way. The old way was, I'll go to this event, get all pumped up, or even a church service, I'll get all pumped up. I can remember this too in my early days when I really needed to the church and all that it offered, and it's very good. But I would go in there almost in tears. I was such a mess, on Sunday, and then by the end of it, I'm like, yay, I can do anything. And Monday morning, I'd be like, crap. I had a lot to go through.
Yes.
And now that I've been through most of that, it's now my turn to help. I'm still going through stuff, but give back, have relationships with people. But what's really nice, Greg? It's really nice to just be friends without an agenda. I mean that not just for church, but for my business. I'm friends with people that I know their business could use my product, but they haven't asked. That's fine, because I value the friendship. I value the relationship more than a few bucks. And the few bucks, that's good too, but that'll come.
Hey, Scott, we have about 5 minutes left. I'm going to take just a couple of minutes. Then I would like for you to close the broadcast. When I was in first grade, I was sitting at my desk. And back then, they were those old wooden desks, and they had this little round circle. I guess they said in the old days, they used to put ink in that little tray so they could sort of dip their pen. So I was sitting at one of those desks. Yeah. In the lid, you would lift it up. It was though, I think Rebecca would remember. I say it to laugh because those desks were old. They were old. But anyways, I was sitting in the front row. My teacher was right in front of me. And all of a sudden, I heard this voice. I'll never forget it. And the memory came to me maybe about 8 years ago. I heard, Greg, don't take this life serious. It's only a dream. I heard it just like that. So to fast forward to the present, I want to say this. There's no purpose you got to look for. There's no dream you got to create. Mm-hmm. Because if that's true, in the word, the Bible, it says, don't focus on tomorrow because we may not be here. So Scott, in this one moment in time, this one moment, because I'm not promised tomorrow. So why should I think on creating something that I may not be around? So in this moment, my responsibility is to remember who I am and to love the best that I can, because I may not be here tomorrow. So I may be putting so much energy in creating a dream or a purpose, and all of a sudden I get at that place where that dream or purpose is accomplished. And then I begin to say, is that all it is? Mm-hmm. And you're still empty. So all we have, I think, Scott, to sum it up, I think we just have moments in time. And if we could reflect who Christ is in that one moment, I think that's our purpose.
Perfect. You mentioned you have a responsibility, and that's responding to with your abilities. And that's what we're called to do. That's people will say, I'm looking for my calling. I'm looking for this. You're in it. You're alive. You're on earth, and you're in this moment. You just said it, Greg. Yeah. Rebecca said, yes, I do remember. I'm around people where I feel a little old sometimes. Now I feel young again, Greg. And you're not that much older than me.
Oh, he's referring to the wooden desk, you think, Scott?
I think so. Yeah.
Hey, Scott, and boy, you know what? Those wooden desks brings good memories.
Yeah.
Because things were simple. Then, like you're saying, get rid of all that stuff and begin to live simple again.
But we'll wrap it up. But that could be another thing we talk about is that's something I've studied and I'm applying in our life is keeping it simple. And when it gets too complicated, I question, do I even need whatever this thing is trying to come in? Does it even need to be there? Because this might take my peace, Greg. This might take my peace. So listening to yourself allows you to become the person you were always meant to be. Yeah, that's true. Word from Cynthia there. All right, Greg. So
could you share your website and whatever you would like to share, your radio business, whatever, Scott?
Sure. So my website for a lot of my work, I've been blogging for over 10 years. It's connected there as podcast. Probably this video will be there. My video channel is called New You. So it's about creating a new you. The website is nuu.live. nuu.live. Everything's there. The other thing I want to share is that my work is you don't even know sometimes when when I was blogging, I just started writing and I'd start writing and it was almost channeled. And now I see that it was to create a book. I'm supposed to write a book. It's another one of my things. And I was all worried about it. And God's like, don't worry about it. You're writing a book. What? I mean, I'm not sitting here every day. Those times have changed. It's been being done there's a lot of things that we're doing that are being done through us, for us. And we don't even see it because we're in it. Till later, you'll look back and go, oh, I see what this is supposed to be. Well, it always was that. Just enjoy each day. So, yeah, newyou.live. Thank you, Greg. And if anyone wants to reach out on email and say hi, that's great.
Would you like to share your business channel, Scott? You're free to do so.
Sure. RevCom, it's Revolution Communications, nationwide walkie-talkie for businesses and so on. And that's right now the primary bread and butter. The New You is now, it's going to become and grow into more of a coaching and interpersonal business. But yeah, RevCom is I have a bunch of business customers that use two-way radios nationwide, the group communication. You can sit at a desk and talk. And I have one company that has probably 100 trucks and they all hear it at the same time. Who's over at Smith Street? And they pick it up and go ahead. So that's what RevCom is. And that's RevCom, r3vcom.com.
It's a great way to really communicate in a way that could really help enhance our lives. Rebecca and I have one, and because of you and Cynthia, things are really expanding. So there's more than one level to communicate, and I'm glad you shared that website there, Scott.
Well, thank you, Greg.
Yeah. So last words, 20 seconds if you can. I'm putting a time limit on it.
Those out there, thanks for listening to me. I might sound, I'm probably a bit out of the box, but that's who I am. I'm learning to be true to myself and share my experiences. And I want to thank Greg and Rebecca for their awesome platform and having me on. Thanks, guys.
Well, thanks for being yourself there, Scott, this morning with us.